everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. It may now be Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, but I want to keep the festive feelings, the festive spirit alive, hence why I refuse to get rid of the Christmas jumpers. I have a different Christmas hat today. Let's keep the festive spirit going just a little bit longer. I hope you all enjoyed Joy to the World. Of course, we do have our ups and downs for that episode up now on the channel. But after Joy to the World finished, we also got treated to a little teaser for the upcoming season 2 of Doctor Who. Let's break down that teaser trailer, shall we? I mean, straight off the bat, I loved that trailer. I give a thumbs up from me. That gets an up from me. It gripped me. I'm intrigued. I'm excited for what's to come. It definitely seems like season 2 is a little darker, a little edgier, more high concept sci-fi, which, as you all know, is what I've been saying I feel has been lacking, especially in season 1. Now, I did hear through the grapevine a little while ago that season 2 is essentially season 1 on steroids. And from what we've seen in this teaser so far, this definitely seems to be the case. I can definitely see that. Also, because we know that season 2 has some new writers coming as well, it definitely gives a feel that there's something new and different from what we see in this trailer. And hopefully that's to do with the fact that we have some fresh eyes and fresh perspectives coming into Doctor Who. So we open the trailer with this kind of distortion going on, and the line that this distortion is over is "there are forces beyond this universe." From this, to me, I can imagine that we're very much continuing with the theme of gods and the supernatural. That definitely is what I'm getting from this distorted vibe. And as I just said, I'm really hoping that this season is going to go down a darker route, be a little edgier, a bit more tense than what we saw in season 1. And based just on this opening shot, I think we can be quite hopeful for that. So then we have this very orangey planet. Of course, my first thought, as I would imagine was the case for a lot of people, was either Gallifrey or Skaro. Now, that would be very cool if it was Skaro. I kind of miss the Daleks. A lot of people feel that Daleks are overused, and I did get to a point where I maybe did feel like the Daleks were being overused, but now I feel like we haven't seen the Daleks in a really long time, and I'm ready for the Daleks to come back. Or even the Cybermen. I'm ready for some returning monsters now. I know the idea for season 1 was to have lots of new monsters, and I want that to continue, but I'm ready for the Daleks to come back at this point, I think. More likely, though, this is just a random planet. They probably want us to go down the route of thinking it's Skaro, which is probably why it's in the trailer, but I definitely don't think this actually is the case. There's also been some comparisons made between this planet and those that we've seen in the Star Wars universe, particularly Coruscant. Russell has actually taken influence from the design of that planet before with New York in the episode New Earth. So he does have precedent for taking influence from Star Wars. It also kind of has shades of Cloud City from the original Star Wars trilogy. Then, of course, in this teaser, we get our first glimpses of Varada Sethu's character, Belinda Chandra. She will be the new companion for season 2. She will not be playing the same character that we saw her play in Boom, although it is the same actress. You aren't confused. You're not getting confused. That is definitely the same actress. We did know that she was going to be returning to play the companion in season 2. We do also know, I'm going to jump ahead just slightly, but I will come back to this in more detail, but Ruby is not completely gone, so Ruby will be in season 2 as well, and I'll get back to Ruby in a second, but Belinda Chandra will be the next companion, and she will be making her debut in season 2. In this clip, she seems to be in sort of a nurse or doctor's kind of blue scrubs sort of vibes going on. Now, we also do know for a fact that she does work at a hospital, because we also got a very, very brief clip released from episode 1 on Doctor Who Unleashed. So in this clip, we see Belinda, and she is told by a nurse or a doctor that there's a doctor looking for you. So as I say, we know that Belinda works at this hospital, and it would seem that she is a nurse in this hospital. Naturally, people are going to immediately draw comparisons between Belinda and Martha Jones. There is a very similar vibe going on here to the first era that Russell T Davies was showrunner. You started off with this young blonde companion, and then we move on to a companion that works in the hospital. There are very similar things going on here when you compare Russell's first era and second era and Rose and Martha and now Ruby and Belinda. To be honest, I think this has very much been done on purpose. I think this is a nod, a little Easter egg in reference to Martha and Russell's first era as showrunner. I don't know that it would go much further than this. I'm hoping that this is an intentional thing. You'll go, see what you did there. And I'm hoping that's where the similarities kind of stop. I don't feel like we're going to go down the same storyline with Belinda as we did with Martha, where Martha's basically pining after the Doctor. I don't see that in Belinda's story. I'm hoping that's not where we're going to go. I'm highly doubting that will be her storyline. Also quite interesting though, someone online did actually point out another similarity between Martha and Belinda being the fact that just like Martha, we have somebody who made a guest appearance in the previous series appearing as the companion in the following series. The same thing happened with Freema Agyeman. She appeared in Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, that two-parter, and then became the companion in the next series. And of course, we had Varada Sethu in Boom, and now being the companion in season 2. It's interesting. I mean, obviously they've done it on purpose, so it'll be interesting to see how far those similarities go, and how much attention is drawn to those similarities, and if there's a reason for it. Maybe it all means something, or maybe it doesn't mean anything at all, but I'm excited to find out. I kind of get the vibe that this season might be taking the more serialized route with the storytelling, with the Doctor attempting to get Belinda home across the whole season. And this is actually further supported by the description of season 2 that we have on the BBC website that accompanied this teaser trailer. The Doctor meets Belinda Chandra and begins an epic quest to get her back to Earth. But a mysterious force is stopping their return, and the time-travelling TARDIS team must face great dangers, ferocious enemies, and wilder terrors than ever before. To be honest, I wouldn't be mad at a more serialized story. Obviously, Doctor Who does tend to follow a more episodic format, but not necessarily all the time. I mean, if you jump back to the River Song story arc, Ellie mentioned River. It's Christmas, I'm sure everyone's got a drink in their hand. You can take a shot right now. With the River Song story, although there were episodic episodes in between, there was a serialized structure going on as well. So that works quite well here. And then obviously with Flux, that was serialized. It was a whole season or whole series that was focused on one story. And then when you think about modern TV, most modern television now is serialized. It's not episodic. And I think that definitely works a lot of the time. It kind of resonates with audiences more. It's more gripping. It makes you want to come back because you want to find out how the story continues. And this idea that we may have a kind of reluctant companion who just wants to go home rather than getting into these crazy scrapes and going on all these adventures, that sounds very intriguing actually, and something different for Doctor Who, as opposed to the companions that just want to be there for the fun and adventures rather than someone that's like, just take me home. I don't want to be here. So yes, I think this is very exciting if this is the avenue we're going down. And while we're talking about this kind of reluctant traveller, we see friction between the Doctor and Belinda in this teaser. Friction between the Doctor and the companion. And one of our criticisms for season 1 is that there was a lack of conflict or friction between the Doctor and Ruby, which is not to say that I wanted them to be arguing all the time, but they just got on all of the time. There was never any friction. And that's just not realistic, really. Everyone has their moments where they don't quite get on, they don't agree on something, and that was very lacking in the relationship between Ruby and the Doctor. So it seems that we're going down a very different route here, which I'm very excited to see. That, for me, makes the relationships between the Doctor and companion much stronger. You know, think of the Doctor and Donna. That relationship's brilliant because there's that friction between them. They don't always get along. So I think this is definitely going to be good, especially if we're going down this kind of darker route as well. Why would a companion be like, yeah, I'm up for this? If that were me and it was getting darker and more tense and the higher stakes, I'd probably be like, can I go home, please? I don't want to be shot at by robots. We then have Mrs. Flood. Mrs. Flood is in this trailer. Might I say she also looks amazing in her costume. Kind of period hair, the clothes, the opera glasses. Mrs. Flood's looking good. Russell T Davies recently did tease as well and did say that we were going to get a lot more of Mrs. Flood in season 2. So I'm really hoping that we're going to have a good payoff here. We're going to get some answers and we're going to dive deeper into the Mrs. Flood mystery. Now, we had a theory that Mrs. Flood might be the god of stories. And from what we see in this trailer, which again could be completely wrong, based on how it's edited, it might seem that she might be watching this cartoon that we then see in this trailer, which I will talk about again just in a second. But we see this cartoon climbing out of the screen, coming to life. So if Mrs. Flood is the god of stories, like we theorize she might be, has she brought this cartoon to life? Has she made this happen? It definitely plays into our theory from what we've seen in the trailer, but again, the way it's edited is what aids that, and we all know that sometimes things are edited in a trailer that end up being completely out of context, and then when you actually see them in the episodes, they might even be from different episodes entirely. So who knows, but this definitely seems likely. Now, while we're talking about that cartoon climbing out of the cinema screen, this looks amazing. This is definitely my favourite shot in the entire trailer. I would probably say that based on everything that's in this teaser, this is the episode that I'm the most excited for, the most intrigued by. It looks like it could be very dark, very creepy, very scary. And as I've said, that's what I like Doctor Who to be. So this one by far, and I think it's kind of general consensus from what I've been seeing, most people have taken this particular moment as their what is going on, this is what I'm excited for moment in the trailer. Now, a lot of people have drawn comparisons between this cartoon character and the video game Cuphead, which came out a few years ago and was influenced by kind of old-timey cartoon aesthetics and kind of made that kind of style cool again. Now, I'm not saying that Doctor Who has been influenced by Cuphead, but what I will say is that if you also made this comparison, you're not the only one out there. Our WhoCulture group chat had at least 3 people also make that comparison. So you're not alone if you thought of Cuphead as well. Now, it also looks like from this clip in the cinema that this episode will be set in the 1950s, based on the costumes of the people sat in that cinema. I love things set in the 1950s, so again, it just adds to my excitement for this particular episode. And I'm thinking, my prediction now is that this episode will be my favourite one of season 2. Then we have some robots. Now, first of all, they look very similar to the robot we see in The Husbands of River Song, in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, and also we saw some robots very similar in the Sarah Jane Adventures as well. So it's nice to know that robot designs in Doctor Who don't tend to get very adventurous. They all seem to look the same. Of course, they're not actually the same, but they do look very similar. Now, we do see them teleporting Belinda somewhere, and then a little bit later we see them pushing the TARDIS. So maybe they kidnap Belinda and the Doctor maybe goes after her. Maybe they'll turn out to be good robots. Then we have Belinda and the Doctor jumping out of some sort of spaceship of some sort into space, landing on a planet. It definitely screams to me that this season's going to have more action. We didn't really have any moments like that in season 1 that I can recall. So again, this just adds to this idea that season 2 is going to be more action-packed, maybe a little bit more serious, a bit darker, a bit edgier, which is all a thumbs up from me. And then, of course, we have the return of Unit. So we see Kate. We see that Shirley is back as well. We haven't seen her for a while, so it's nice to have Shirley back too. Although we don't see him in the trailer, Colonel Sexy is also there. We see him in the promotional images that also came out after Joy to the World, so we know he is there too. But also, Ruby is there, and based on what she's wearing, I would suggest that Unit has now hired Ruby. Ruby is working with Unit, and quite honestly, this makes a lot of sense because we do know that Kate does love to hire literally anybody who has any connection to the Doctor, even if they're literal children. She doesn't care. If you've got a connection to the Doctor, you are coming to work for Unit. So, makes a lot of sense that Ruby would be working for Unit, and also gives her a reason to be in season 2 without still being the companion. We know that Unit has appeared in lots of episodes and they're kind of separate to the Doctor, and the Doctor comes and visits them. And similar how Rose kind of appeared at the end of season 1 by being at Unit, I think there'll be more to it than just Rose popping up with Ruby, but I think that's the way that we're going to have Ruby returning in season 2. Not as the companion, but still as the companion. Now, I mentioned some costumes earlier in that cinema shot. While we're talking about costumes, we see yet another wild selection of costumes for the Doctor here. Now, I still kind of have mixed feelings about the Doctor not having one single iconic look, but I think I may be warming to the idea of the multiple costumes. Mostly because they all look so fun and vibrant all the time. If they were all boring and didn't really make much sense, then I just feel like, what's the point in this? But I'm kind of getting to the point where I feel like maybe 15's iconic look is the fact that he has multiple looks. It's not really something that's been done massively before, so maybe the the iconic thing about this Doctor isn't the fact that he has one look, but the fact that he has multiple. I guess we'll see if then when the next Doctor comes along, if that continues or he or she goes back to one. But also Belinda has some pretty nice looking costumes in this teaser as well, so overall, this is one well-dressed season, if nothing else. Now we also have this shot of what looks to be like a 1950s barber shop of some sort, but it seems to be inside some sort of spacecraft. I mean, overall, this trailer looks very trippy, actually. You know, there's lots of distortion and strange scenarios going on. I mean, there's literally a shot of Belinda where she looks like she's sort of glitching and fading, which again, very different to what we've seen in season 1. We have the Doctor flying through the air in what looks to be like an anti-mavity situation. Yeah, overall, it just looks like this season is a lot more out there than what we saw in season 1, which again, for me, is a positive. It kind of feels like maybe the fabric of the universe is being altered or changed in some way here by some higher being, potentially Mrs. Flood, the gods again. Maybe this is the reason why the Doctor can't simply take Belinda home. Like, there's obviously a reason why he can't just use the TARDIS and get her home. So something's going on here that's making that difficult. And of course, then we have the Doctor's voiceover saying that these games are deadly. Of course, when you start saying games, you instantly think of the Toymaker, but that again links to the Pantheon of Gods. The Toymaker did tease his legions were coming, so again, I think it's quite safe to assume that the Pantheon is definitely involved in some way in season 2. Now, the one thing that we didn't get in this teaser was any idea of when we can expect season 2 to drop. I wasn't expecting an actual date, but I was maybe hoping that we would get a month. Last year, we did get a month. So I was hoping that maybe we'd get a ballpark. 2025. I'm not entirely sure why they wouldn't announce a month. Is it perhaps further away than we think it might be? Although Russell T Davies recently teased that it was coming sooner than we might think. In which case, maybe they're not entirely sure yet when they want to drop it, and so they don't want to commit to saying it's going to be here if they end up changing that. Maybe it might be coming kind of March, April time, or maybe they just want to space out their announcements a little bit more. If you don't announce it now, that gives you something else to release in, say, January. The other thing that I think some people maybe were disappointed by is that this was a very short trailer, a teaser. I mean, it was 20 seconds long. The one we got last year was 30 seconds, so there was only an extra 10 seconds, but sometimes those extra 10 seconds can make all the difference. I was never expecting a full trailer. To be honest, even though there were 10 seconds less, I feel like this trailer actually did a better job of getting me excited and intrigued than the one last year did. It just had that snappier pacing to it. It felt more tense, it felt more dark. As long as the content of the trailer is good, I don't think it matters how long it is, necessarily. I mean, if it was literally just very brief, like 5 seconds, then maybe I might have different thoughts. Maybe if you were watching on Christmas Day and you're not really into Doctor Who, you might have been more gripped if there was a little bit more to it. But again, I think the trailer itself did a really good job. So I'm hoping that people who might not really be into Doctor Who might have seen this, might actually go, that looked quite good actually. Maybe I'll tune into that. But I guess time will tell. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. I will see you very, very soon. I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of Riversong herself, goodbye, sweeties.